Mein Name ist Kamalanetra. Ich bin 41 Jahre alt und ich wohne in Köln. Kamala bedeutet Lotus und Netra bedeutet Augen. My relationship with my gender, it's about finding peace and about allowing myself be free despite the expectations about how my mind and my body should be actually be. It's an inner relationship, and it's something I did not choose. Nobody chooses to be born as this or that, or to be born in this body or that body. But it's a relationship of acceptance, and it's also a relationship of kindness that with time I had to learn to nourish and to love. The relationship with my gender is about also forgiving the times where I was pushing myself down, and it's a dynamic relationship with the people who is around me, and that includes family, parents, and educators, teachers, as well as friends and partners. It was a long process to understand and to feel first, and then to find words to those feelings. I guess it was actually quite a lot about being with other people like me, people who will make me feel comfortable, where I did not experience shame, and having a nurturing environment within the trans and queer community that allowed me to read and to interact with other people. And then later on I was including some of these words or pronouns or labels that felt for me more accurate at specific times and moments. I think there was a lot of denial from the people around me about my gender expression that created a lot of noise inside, so I didn't know really what was wrong. I thought that it was actually my fault. And eventually, culturally, I started to deny my free expression, and that was very hurting. And that happened quite a lot in the childhood, and also during my studies, and even in my adult life. And that was very difficult because I didn't know how to apply boundaries to people outside, and that was an extremely painful situation. This is also one of the reasons I advocate for inclusion in the education system and also in open science, because I think educators play an extremely strong role in our day life, no? So if you are not, if you are in an environment that does not provide room for an acceptance for your expression, then you automatically start thinking that there is something wrong with you, and this is extremely dangerous. Ich beschäftige mich mit Thema Open Science und ich gerade entwickle eine Webplattform, eine Webentwicklung. Ich arbeite in einer Webentwicklung für die Inklusion von Transmenschen, Trans, Intersex und nicht-binäre Leute in die Hochschulsystem. das Rahmen für dieses Projekt. Es ist der Sustainable Development Goals. Das ist ein Rahmen im Rahmen der United Nations. Ich möchte zeigen, wie ist die Inklusion in unterschiedliche Hochschulinstituten. So I started working in this project in 2017, and this project was born out of my struggle in my university life and my research life here in Germany. Basically because there was no person that I could go for help when I was experiencing struggles, when I was having a struggle and when I was having friction with people towards my gender expression. There was nobody I could go, and I didn't know what was the frame, what kind of laws or what kind of anything, I didn't even have information about transgender people in the universities, and I felt extremely isolated. Plus, I was working as a scientist and working in research, which is already very isolating. So the level of isolation was extreme. My master's studies I did in the city of Dresden, which was for me also interesting geographic place from someone who is born in Venezuela, who is used to a warm weather, and suddenly I arrive in the year 2002 in the city of Dresden, and everything is extremely cold, and the social environment is actually very different. Even though I was in a relatively protected environment, which is as the university and also the research institute I was working with, it was actually extremely challenging. And back then, in those years, there was no discussions about transgender people. So later, when I had understood myself, when I had more strengths within me, in 2017, I went to a conference called OpenCon that was organized in the city of Berlin. And that conference gave me room to speak about this issue of inclusion of transgender people in universities. So Open Science is a, let's say, a platform that discuss about the access to not only information or database or papers. It's not only about working with open software, and it's not only about working with open hardware, but there is a topic of inclusion and how do you actually incorporate, how do you include people in the discussion. And this is actually a topic I'm very busy now. This year, 2020, it's the Internet Governance Forum. And in this Internet Governance Forum, I will be speaking also about the topic of inclusion. I've been working in the Invisible Project since 2017, and this project was a way for me to reconcile my experience in the higher education system. The project is having foundation in open science and the principles of inclusion of marginalized communities in the knowledge production, and actually how to work and lower the barriers for people to actually do science. And this project also is a way to reconcile and to do the right thing, that everyone should have access to education, no matter what your gender identity is, and everyone should feel comfortable and safe and and should be celebrated and validated for who they are. We're living in 2020, and there has been quite a lot educational efforts actually towards exchange from scientific people from different parts of the world. But we need to understand that people are coming from different histories as well, and transgender people, for example, from the global south, for few communities, this issue of gender has never been a topic. It has been culturally there in history, but it's not showing in how our system in the Western or in the global North is accommodating. It's not accommodating that, and it's not acknowledging this history of. And I think if we're talking really about a global setting, then we should actually give room and space to other people to share their stories, and not just having a single dominant story. For me, it's also important to say that it's a right to be yourself the way you are. That nobody chooses to be born this way or that way, and you're perfectly good as you are. And when you start, people are denying you for one specific aspect of yourself, which is not the whole thing of who you are, but they pick you up for one little thing, then you start thinking that there is something wrong with you in your whole totality. And this is very important to understand, that we are not only trans people, we are more than trans people. And I'm someone who is an engineer, who is also a spiritual person. I'm also someone who has family, and so it's really important to understand that we are not just only one thing. What is important for me right now is to be kind to myself, but not as self-indulgence and not as self-esteem, but from the perspective of self-compassion, and to be kind to myself. In this process of being self-kind to myself comes this issue of accepting myself as I am, and accepting that I am a human with positive and negative qualities, and to see myself as a whole being and not just as one single thing. Queer community is a place of growing. Queer community is a place of growth. And queer community is a place where there is less shame about who you are. And there is this place where this characteristic where you feel excluded is not actually so important, because you know that what is on the other side of your other trans folk or queer folk is more just than this label. And this is our opportunity to relax, and this is also an opportunity to actually in a deeper level get to know other people. Something I would like to share with you, I think it will be about understand that there is the peace that you're looking for is not in the outside, but is inside of you. And the love that you are looking for is not in the outside and is inside of you. And it's very challenging, especially for trans women, to think about love, let's say, in the material way as it happens with the majority of people, because there is so much potential violence about it. And sometimes we have to forgive. We have to forgive these people who are having such a shortcut in their minds, because they are attracted to someone and at the same time they have to deal with their stigma of loving a trans person. And this goes also to family and friends who are actually getting distance from you because they don't know how to deal with the stigma of loving a trans person. But loving a trans person is actually understanding that everyone inside is the same, that what is inside of me is inside of you. And if you can acknowledge that what is inside of me is inside of you, and that there is something very intrinsic, which is the spirit of each person, then you can start transcending the body and the mind difference that you have with other people. But first you have to find that within yourself.